Howdy guys, Sunday night at 10 p.m, take two. Right, it's the second time we've tried this, Lee. I'm not even sure that it's worked this time, but maybe you could check.
We're good. We're good this time. We're good right. This time. No problem. This has all gone crazy. I've just been dealt aces in a game of poker I'm playing as well. So
fantastic.
So bear with
priorities,
me.
Lee, priorities the show, please. Forget UK IPT London or whatever it is you're playing.
We'll quickly get this shared across to the group so everyone can follow us and see what's going on. We'll let you know that actually, we've got a couple of guests on the show tonight. So a very warm welcome to Dan Owston and Tom Bacon. How are you doing, chaps?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, good, and I'm doing great. Late wardrobe malfunction. We're stuck now with the APAT medal hunting T-shirt because obviously planned to wear a Wales rugby top and that had to come off. And the Liverpool shirt is in the wash.
Listen, I'm not sure we're going to be talking about football tonight at all. Very, very unsatisfactory game, albeit split the points with Chelsea earlier for Liverpool, certainly. But we'll think about that. You mentioned the medal hunting T-shirt there, Dan. Lee, I'm going to put this up because you were wearing the WCOAP T-shirt. This picture popped up on my timeline a couple of days ago. I thought this looked very, very nice. Yourself, Tom, and Natalie, of course, there. So what's happened with the T-shirts? I remember you put together a bunch together at the same time. They instantly sort of sold out, as it were, without selling any of them.
No, we've so we just gave them away at the last Worlds. So we had the one I was wearing there, the one Dan's wearing. We also had the Jer, the Drink Responsibly NFL ones as well. So I saw a couple of messages from last week, people saying, "Can you bring some more? Can you bring some more?" So I'm desperately trying to see if I can get some printed up in time to get them to Nottingham for next week. So fingers crossed, we will be able to do that. And of course, tonight I am wearing my Talk Club. Which Simon very kindly nice. got for me, which made it out to Vegas as well this summer as well. The how are you out of 10 T-shirt. So all's good. All is.
I like
good
that.
In the world.
I like that very much, and that reminds me, of course, as if we needed reminding, that WCOAP is not too far away, and perhaps that's not a bad place for us to start this evening, because if you're an APATer, that's probably your big focus. Lee, timelines, I mean, what are we, 2 weeks away now?
Well, we're not even 2 weeks away, actually. No, it's not even. No.
Well, it depends on when it starts, right? So it starts next week. This
time today, if you're at Dust Till Dawn today, in a week's time, you could have played Day 1A, which will have started at 3:00 this afternoon. So. So there's a lot of info firing out at the moment. Tom's doing an amazing job of getting information out for players and making sure you know what's going on. Just kind of get across the Facebook group or the website if you want to find out. But basically, so in a week's time, Day 1A starts the main event. Then we've got 2 online Day 1s for the main. And then we're into the Wednesday where we'll be at Dust Till Dawn, and obviously 6 days worth of poker then flies there. 23 bracelet events in total up until when we leave Dust Till Dawn, and then we've got 2 more bracelet events on GG Poker the following Friday and Saturday, which will be our online bracelet as well, which will make 25 in total. It's lots of info's gone out this week, so we put out information about. So we started running satellites this week. We've already done, I think, 13 seats in the satellites so far this week. It's been a crazy week on that. We also put out player of the series info as well. So if you've not read about any of that stuff, every one of the bracelet events points for 1st to 9th. Basically, it's a flat structure with it. So it doesn't matter whether it's main event, how many runners, what the buy-in, all irrelevant. Basically, the 25 bracelet events will get you points. And GG Poker have put a £560 UKPC seat up for the winner of that. Dust Till Dawn have put up a DTD 100 seat as well. So their monthly 100k guarantee comp as well. They put one of those up for the runner-up as well. So for the first time, I think ever, we've got a couple of prizes in the player of the series. Normally, it's just the winner will scoop an added value seat, but in this case, we've got we've got a couple of prizes for that. I mean, I feel like after the week I've had, I want to put a Twix bar up or something for 3rd place, Des. So we've got top Twix? 3 have got something.
I was away for most of the last few days, boys, right? I've been away, enjoying myself, sunning myself, and I caught wind of some like Twix related content that was appearing on the group. Somebody suggested, I can't remember now, somebody suggested
well,
that we were going to start a GoFundMe for Twixes.
Yeah. So it only started the first night that we did the satellites. Obviously, we're satelliting in from £1. So you can get in from £1 into the £5, £5 into the 25, and 25 into the 150C. So I just made the point that I was in Coventry last weekend and a Twix was £1.20 out of the vending machine. So you can actually become a world champion for less than a Twix. And yeah, as the APAT community has a tendency to do, it all got a little bit silly for 5 minutes.
It went from there. Well, listen, I can't believe it's so close. It just seems to have, because there's so much happening at the moment, it just seems to have crept up upon us. So, as you said, Lee, effectively it kicks off at DTD this day next week. Then we've got the online days, and then, of course, the thing breaks out in all of its glory from Wednesday at DTD. Dan, you go in as the main event champion, right? That's a pretty big mantle to carry in. Tom, you're going in as well. I mean, what are your plans, guys? A couple of days, a couple of events, all of it. I mean, what are you doing? Let's start with Tom. Oh, he's gone very quiet. Have we lost his audio?
Do you want me to start while we get Tom?
Yeah,
go on. I was on mute, but you go anyway.
Oh no! If you're back,
who muted Tom?
I'm not being funny. Yeah, we've been doing these type of things now since 2019 or whatever. Yeah, and to be on mute in 2023 is pretty good going.
It's still a thing.
Well, at least I've muted myself while you were talking, which is
no, that's much appreciated. Yeah,
very
what
gentleman.
I was saying is, one of my friends has inconveniently decided to have their birthday on the Saturday, which is quite annoying. So I will maybe play the main event online. Might be a best option.
Yeah.
And then try and make it in a very hungover state from London to Nottingham on Sunday. And then the rest of the week, I'm not sure, but I live not far from Nottingham, so I will probably be around.
You can duck and
in
dive.
the evenings at least, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'll be on the rail at the very least, even if I'm not around to.
Stuff. Tom, what I would say is, from experience, my understanding is the online day one route is quite successful if you want to win a world championship with APAT.
Exactly.
Yeah. Dan has a lot of experience at that. Yeah,
it's known as the easy route.
Well, I don't know if it's easy, but it's worked. It worked for Rich Baker as well, right, at the UK.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, Dan, you came in as chip leader from the online last year, didn't you?
I did. However, as we're all aware, the online chip leader is never going to have as many chips as some of the online qualifiers. So even being online chip leader, I think I was about 70 going into day two. Because obviously the fields are so much bigger.
Yeah.
The live fields are so much bigger. You know you're never gonna, even though your stack looks good, by the time you have the live day ones out of the way, you're probably just above average or just above the middle of the pack. So I think it might be a little bit different this year, Dan. I don't know. I've just got this feeling because last year it was a bit of a kind of we got it in there as a bit of a flexible option for people without kind of giving it too much thought really. Whereas I think players this year, because we've now got the full schedule in for the Worlds of all the other events, people are looking at this and going, well, yeah, if I fire at the online one, which is also reg free as well, so it's a cheaper version of way to get in as well, that people are thinking, well, yeah, then that frees me up for the rest of the week to play all the other variants that I want to play, because there's something on every day they want to play. So I think we might see a few more actually on that Monday and Tuesday having a go at getting their day two stack locked up before they actually get to Dusk Till Dawn, and freeing them up to then play all the other stuff that they want to, the fun stuff they want to play. Yeah, it definitely makes planning an awful lot easier. And as I said, it might be a little bit different because they might be a little bit more heavily subscribed. I think last year I went through with like 1.1 million. The chip leader ended up with 1.9, so almost double my stats. But as I said, that's just a sign of, I would expect the final day to always produce the chip leader, I'd expect it to be no different this year. But then that's to be expected. If you're going to play a bigger field and get through that, then I guess you have that entitlement to go through with the largest stack. But as I said, it definitely left me with a playable stack. And managed to navigate some pitfalls and.
He did. He managed to navigate a few hurdles along the way. Lee, do you think will the rake free make a difference? It'll be interesting to see whether players see that, offering a bit of value. And
I think so. I think it will. I mean,
I hope so.
When we spoke to Gigi about it and said, look, we sort of said to them, look, we've got this idea. We think we'd like to do it reg free for the online and give and they thought it was a brilliant idea and to be able to give back to the players in that way. Is for them. They were jumped on it straight away and said yes, players should absolutely love that, and I think that's mostly the comments I've heard from people. Even today, there was a really interesting discussion around the online satellites taking place today on our day of rest because it's a Sunday. So we obviously we have a day of rest, and so whilst that discussion was going on, somebody just came in and said, well, yeah, but it's worth just playing the online day one. Even if you haven't satellited in, because it's reg free, so you're saving yourself a chunk of money for giving it a go there. And the structure's pretty good. It's exactly the same, obviously the same structure as you'd get play live. It's on a 12-minute clock on GG, so it probably will last around 4 hours, something like that. I would say starts at 7:30 in the evening, so you'll be done by sort of half 11 at night. So it should should be pretty good, I reckon.
Is it still a play down to a certain percentage of the field, or is it?
It still plays down to 15% of the field. So late reg, late reg till the end of level 8. So exactly the same as it would be live. But say you're just playing. Oh, and obviously you get all of the fun of all of the GG animations and throwables and all that kind of stuff too, which you can't do at Dusk Till Dawn. They won't let you chuck stuff at somebody else at Dusk Till Dawn. I've checked, and they're not keen on that kind of thing. So if you want to do any of that nonsense, then GG's.
It's not impossible. It's not impossible. I promise you. But anyway, we're wasting a lot of time speaking about the main event, but it's not just about the main event. There's 25 events going on.
How many are you planning on playing, Dan? What do you think? What's your target?
Unfortunately, due to the team event clashing with a few and being over 2 days, it means I'm going to probably miss 2 or 3.
Two or three things that you'd actually would normally like to play. Yeah, is that's what you're saying?
Yeah, there's a couple there's a couple that I'd love to play, and there's a couple that I still plan on playing.
Well, pop the full schedule up on the screen a minute, and then we can show people. I guess it is the Wednesday and the Thursday is the team event. We've not popped that. We don't put that on the schedule because it's an invitational anyway. So it just kind of, we don't want to kind of confuse anybody with that. So it's things like the horse, I suppose. Dan is and maybe the Raz, the 2 which you'd be looking at.
Well, the PLO on the Wednesday is something that I'm still going to try and get. Well, I want to play the PLO and the Turbo on the Wednesday,
whilst also captaining the Welsh team. Yeah, okay,
that's the plan at the moment.
Yeah.
I might have to sub in a vice captain, and then the 6 max on the Thursday.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Would definitely like to be something. I mean, look. Is one of them things where there's absolutely something for everyone, isn't there? So even if you're not going to find your favorite game, you're going to find something that you quite like to play.
Yeah. Now, are you comfortable sitting in on something like the 8 game, Dan? Is that your thing?
Believe it or not, I don't want to give too much away now in case I ended up playing some of these things. It wouldn't be my game of choice. Look.
Look, by the way, we listened to Simon Trumper at the UK claiming he didn't know how to play this game and that game, and then going on and meddling and doing whatever. So we don't take what anybody says too seriously anymore. It's we know it's all a game of cat and mouse.
I got to be honest, I would love to play the horse, but that's also on the Wednesday with the Turbo and the PLO. I don't think I'm going to get the 4 in. With the team championship going on as well, and obviously being a limit game, that's probably going to be a little bit more of a sit there and grind it out. Whereas the Turbo and the PLO is every hand's an opportunity to double up in those. So we fancy that we could probably give those both a go.
Yeah. Tom is the 8 game you're in your kind of repertoire, or would you need to learn a couple of the games? What's your kind of variance?
I don't know if I could name all 8 of the games, which is probably not a great start. But I think I probably know vaguely how they all work. It's quite what I would quite like to play is the Deuce to 7 triple draw.
Okay.
Because I've watched quite a bit of Deuce to 7 during the WSOP, and it just looks really fun. And I've never played it before, so that's one that I think I might try and get into on the Monday.
And of course, and the reality is you're paying, it's not costing too much to kind of get in and play some of these. So if there are variants that you're not used to playing, kind of, if it's a £60 buy, okay, it's still £60, but it's kind of doable, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if I was around for the because the day 2's on the Saturday, I won't be there. But I mean, I would still play it just because you don't really have the opportunity to play a lot of these mixed games live for a relatively small buy-in. So it's quite a nice opportunity to just give those games a go, even if you don't really know what you're doing. I'm sure half the field would be the same, where not a lot of people will have played that much live Rouse or Stud 8, or not recently in any case. So you might as well have a go, and maybe you'll find you really enjoy it.
Have some fun with it. And generally there'll be smaller field events, right? Maybe 40, 50, 60 runners. Well, some of these events are going to be a lot larger than that, I would guess, Lee, but there'll be a few smaller field events, sure. That, players just take advantage of the fact that they get a chance to play a game live that they don't traditionally, get the chance to play.
Or you're missing out the big one here, Des. It's like the WSOP. Playing the smaller field events puts you in contention for player of the series.
Yeah, absolutely right. And there's a bit of value there.
It's a lot easier. And with what Tom was saying about railing Deuce to 7, I think one of my first big rails, and definitely one of my favourite ever rails, was Matt Perrins, who was a Deuce to 7 WSOP bracelet champion, who won the Deuce to 7 bracelet at the WSOP on his first time of ever playing Deuce to 7.
Nice.
How hard can it be, basically?
It's bizarre. We had players like Adam Owen used to come and play WC OAP mixed games quite regularly. Back when he was in the UK and stuff like that. So we've had lots of, really good players who have just taken advantage of the fact that the games are there and they're not laid, in too many card rooms to sit in and just.
No, it's a very limited. It's a very limited opportunity, and you're going to get a chance to play these games live, and this is probably your one and only chance to do it within the UK.
Absolutely. Listen, let me quickly go to the chat box because there is a bunch of you out there, and we want to say hello. So Tony G is there. Evening, chaps. Simon Lawler is there. Evening. Mr. 40 is there. Hi all. Hello there, boys, says Stefan Fisher. Can't wait until Thursday next week. WCOAP. And the team event, we're talking about the team event there. Simon goes on to say, more £1 feeders, please. Going to try these next week. Stefan also says, player of series, nice prize. So we like that, certainly. Kit Kat, at least, orange version. So it's not about the Twixes, Lee. It's about the orange Kit Kats. That's what we're saying now. Simon also suggests flip and goes. Can we get flip and go sats in the last week, Lee? It sounds sick. It sounds like exactly the sort of thing we should be doing. Mr. Wigglesworth is out there and says, good evening, guys. Tony G says, I'm already raised for the online day 1B. Hashtag keen.
Well, we should give him a mention out to our very own Tony G, because not only did he win, he won a satellite with us on, I think, maybe the first or second night that we started running them this week. Yeah. But he then jumped into the True Geordie free roll that they ran on Thursday night. You might not know about this, Des, because it was whilst you were away. But Gigi added 9 WCOAP main event seats into that on Thursday night. It got over 1,000 runners.
Did they tell anyone, Lee?
Well, they might have eventually, very, very late, mention it to somebody. Tony finished 8th, I think it was. So he's picked up one of those as well. Fantastic. So he's one in a satellite, one in a free roll. So he's had a pretty good week already. Getting a little bit in his WCOAP bankroll. So very well done to him.
That makes a lot of sense. Stefan says the PLO and the Pineapple are the events that I want to play, but he's got to mix them in with the team event, so he can't play the Raz.
We get this every year. We get this every single year for the team event players. Obviously, they want to represent their country. It's a big deal to get to do that. For some people, it might be the only chance they get to do it, whatever. But of course, it's always going to take up 2 days of the 5, 6, 7 days, whatever we've got going, and therefore things are always going to clash. Nothing we can do about it, unfortunately. But we have got better than because we work out individual points for the team event as well. So the top 9 players individually in the team event also will pick up player of the series points. So they kind of get a little bit back in that they can actually pick up some points towards that as well.
Yeah.
And I might have to step on Stefan's argument, because don't be surprised if you see me playing the Raz.
I don't think team players can multi-table, can they, Lee? I'm not sure.
No, but if they've bust the session that they're in, if they bust the last session of the day and there's still availability to go and play another tournament that's still got, there's nothing to stop them doing that, because once they bust their session and they're railing their teammates and the team are happy, that's cool.
What about between the 2 sessions?
If you bust really, really early, but obviously the team event takes priority. You can't not be sat at the team event. So it's the same ruling as we have for the final tables. If you can multi-table at Dusk Till Dawn, but if you're at a final table, that has to take priority. You can't just multi-table at that point, because that's not really fair on the rest of the players. But
the rest of your team.
But and exactly the same principle for the team. Yeah.
Awesome. So Steve went on to ask you a question about ROE, the round of each, which was discussed in the chat box. Simon says there's a Stud 8 tournament. There's a Stud 8 tournament, Lee.
Stud 8?
Yeah. There's a Stud 8 tournament.
There's
an
8 game, I think, right?
Is it? Yeah, 8 game, and I think he's referring to Matt Perrins with the single draw. Is he? That was response to.
That could well be.
Yeah. So that could well be what he's talking about.
And we'll finish up with Tony G. Just said that's correctly the run in the True Geordie free roll. Yeah. Thanks for the shout out.
He said it was all luck, no skill. I don't believe that for 1 second. So I'm sure. I'm sure there's although that is a lot to get through, to be honest. So very well done to pick up an extra seat, courtesy of GG. Very good. So, and satellites will be running again from tomorrow. It is just the thing that on Sunday GG don't really like non-GG standard tournaments running. They want all their focus on the stuff that they're doing, but that's what they choose to do. So basically, we have to take a break for a day. But you'll already see, if you look in the lobby, the satellites for tomorrow night are already there. Now, again, I did mention that there was a lot of chat and a good discussion was had this afternoon. With Dylan was popping in some good feedback. We're not going to be able to change the satellites for this week because they're already in play, and to try and get them changed now will be it'll cause me more grief than I'm prepared to actually go into. So basically, we will take on board what everyone said, and for future satellites, we'll look and see what we can do. People have said they'd like more of the £1 ones in there. They're quite happy for them to start earlier. As I explained, it's trying to find a balance. Yeah. So we've currently got them set, but they start at 6:30. You're kind of done by about 11, and they don't overlap. So it means you can run £1 up to 150 in an evening. That was kind of where we wanted to go with it to start with. But I fully understand that people are saying, well, we'd like a little bit more play. Everyone always wants a little bit more play, and they'd like a bit more volume so they can actually try and play some of the lower ones a little bit more and build up some tickets. So we'll look into that for future ones and see what we can do.
See what we can do. So WCOAP, fast approaching, guys. Lots of information in the group on that. And obviously the action is just going to continue on through this week, as Lee has said. Lee, a couple of other poker items, APAT related, that we should touch on. First of all, we would have to say Coventry. What a great event culminating last Sunday evening with the live stream of the final table. Seemed to have been a great success, quite a good vibe coming out of Coventry. You were there, Lee. What was your feedback?
Yeah, so I think Goliath was a huge success in all as a festival as a whole, and APAT being part of that was absolutely superb. We got 460 runners into our event. We comfortably could have done 600.
Yeah, I just
the players were there. But it was just simply a case of, from a resource point of view. I mean, Tom was there for the week, playing a little bit of Goliath and some cash, and I know you were there as well, Dan. I don't think they probably could have fit many more players in, many more tables throughout the week. It seems like they were pretty much as maxed out as they could be with where they were resourced. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there were spaces, as there always are, on sort of like the Tuesday, Wednesday. You do find obviously that the Goliath starts, you have a big weekend, and then obviously you've got the midweek, and then obviously not many people who are based outside the Midlands are going to come, go away, and come back. But from Thursday onwards, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you'll find it was completely packed, and I thought everything ran incredibly smoothly. There wasn't ever there were queues, but not crazy queues if you consider the amount of people they're trying to get into multiple flights and multiple events. I thought it all ran very, very smoothly, to be honest with you.
That's the beauty of experience, and it continues to be a wonder, albeit I know the numbers are incredibly large, that the World Series of Poker can't get a handle on this when, likes of Grosvenor can, quite easily, it would seem, manage something as big as Goliath as rarely as it occurs.
Well, they did well in lots of places, but I mean, we did have a ridiculous number of alternates in the APAT event, which ended up putting a lot of players off, and a number of them just kind of decided to reg and leave. I mean, Tom, you played quite a bit of cash, and you said even just waiting for a cash table was just crazy at times, yeah?
Yeah, it was. There was usually like one or two tables running kind of in the morning, and then around kind of midday to 1 o'clock they would open more. But it was a bit of a free for all as to, you just have to kind of hang around the card room, and then they'd suddenly open like 5 tables. And if you're on the list, just take a seat, put yourself there, and then if you're on the list, they'll let you stay there. So it was a bit of the Wild West. And when they opened I didn't play any of the 1-2 games that are in the sports bar, but I think it's the same. They just open a lot of tables, and it's just kind of like a mad rush to get a seat. So, I mean, you're always going to have a bit of queuing and waiting and kind of frustration not getting in as soon as you can. But like Dan said, they were pretty packed out with games and at capacity with their resources. I mean, I played the GKPT at the start of the week, and on day 2 they just had so few dealers. I think a lot didn't turn up. But a lot of the floor staff were dealing, like the big boss of Grosvenor, I can't remember his name, but the guy who comes on sometimes with the tower to talk about how what the numbers are like and the plans for the rest of the year. He was actually dealing on my table. So they were pretty much getting anyone who was.
I think you found that across the board. There was a lot of the staff were pitching in and helping out where it was needed, and so I think they did as much as they could. And I do understand what you're saying about, sometimes things didn't run as efficiently as they could have been. But I don't think it was due to any sort of fault or lack of planning on their part. I think they were let down by a group of dealers early on, which left them slightly short.
That happens.
And they could have probably learned from that, because I know towards the end of the week, and especially with the APAT event, they said, no, we can get alternates, we'll be able to sit in really quickly. And all of a sudden it got to, registration time. It's like, well, we'll open another 5 tables, but that's all you get for the next couple of hours. And so you've almost given people false hope and false expectation, which they could have probably avoided, because they'd have probably known that at the time. But yeah, I mean, it's
well, Tom, you know the venue, because it's your local. I mean, can they go bigger? Is there a sensible way where they do go bigger with it, or are they pretty much maxed out with where they are at the moment?
I think they're pretty much at capacity, mainly in terms of the space. They obviously have the main hall and the side hall, or the kind of the adjoining hall, and then they've got what they call the high roller room, I think, where they had the PLO, they had the GKPT Day 2, and they had some of the high roller events there, and some of the Red Tooth. So I think to get any more tables in there, would have to hire more space within the stadium, and obviously those halls aren't part of the casino, so they have to pay to rent those out during the week. So I think just from a cost perspective for them, renting further space is probably just not viable. And what I would say as well is it's like this every year. and you can pre-reg for pretty much everything on the schedule. So if you turn up not having regged anything and then you end up queuing, it's kind of, to an extent, it's on you. Yeah. Obviously, some people might not necessarily know what they're going to be available for and might have late plans change, but I think that's just kind of, you just have to accept that with an event like this, there's always going to be huge demand, even if they open more tables and stuff, that there's always going to be, people will buy in until they can not buy in anymore.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And I think the only exception to that is the glass, because you could obviously only buy into one flight.
You can, yeah. So, but you can buy in advance to whichever flight you want to play. And what I would say is the earlier ones in the week, so like the Monday and Tuesday, are usually not too bad. You can pretty much buy straight back in if you bust, and you can usually buy into them until maybe the day before. It's the ones towards the end of the week are kind of chaotic because everyone obviously wants to have their last chance to get through to day two. But if you can only come for those ones, then obviously that, and you can buy in advance. So it is, it's detrimental for people who want to buy into the same tournament again, but they've already had a chance. So it's kind of, I feel less sorry for those people.
No, definitely, and I got to be honest, there were a lot of people this year on the Friday who turned up on the Friday and still managed to play the Goliath.
Yeah, and what we should say with the APAT event, we got 460 runners in the end. Patrick, that took it down, was alternate number 200 and something. He bided his time.
Did he really?
Waited until he could sit down. Yeah, and I think he ended up sitting down with somewhere around 15, 20 bigs, something like that, it was, and goes on to win it. So yeah, it's sometimes it is just sitting, and it's worth the wait to get in there. And when we did get down to it, we played down to 68 players in the end that were all in the money on the day two. Plenty of play, huge of good feedback about the actual structure. Players absolutely loved it. So there was loads and loads of play in it. Some of the floor staff were moaning that it was going on for too long because they were all trying to get off to the staff party. But that's just the way it is. We had to get moved into the sports bar on the final table because they were getting ready to start clearing out the main hall because they had to hand that back the following day, I believe. So they were already wanting to do that. So we quickly moved ourselves into the sports bar, set up in there, along with a couple of the other final tables, and played out what I thought was a really enjoyable final table. Lots of banter on that final table, players enjoying themselves, and 3 great medalists, and everybody that cashed on that final table. There was some crazy stuff that went on, some really, really strange hands and all sorts of weirdness that went on as well. But I thoroughly enjoyed the comms on that, and a worthy winner. I thought Patrick played that final table really, really well. I said to him afterwards, he just never looked like he didn't know where he was. Always felt like he knew where he was in most of the hands that he was playing. And so, a very, very worthy APAT Open champion for 2023.
Yeah, he did very well. He was very, very calm, played a top final table. Started the heads-up section with a big lead, but actually found himself back at parity reasonably quickly, but managed to calmly hang on, keep everything together, and ultimately take down the win. 7,500 for first there, Lee, with the gold medal, of course.
Yeah, which I think was his biggest. I think is his biggest cash. Biggest live cash as well. So so very, very well done to him. Yeah,
nice win all round. Now, all of the good stuff hasn't been happening live, as you would expect. Top 10s, Lee, for the week. I think this is the final top 10 leaderboard for the week just gone.
It is with Poker Pops. Yeah, Poker Pops at the top. Yeah.
Let me just put that up again. There it is. Dave Amos taking it down.
Yeah, Warren in second, and Nelly on there as well, and Michelle I think picked up some points as well this week. So all good. Yeah, that's up and running. So that'll be back up and running again on Monday as well. You can get involved in that as well if you wanted from Monday. Two tournaments a night, $10 buy-ins, and
fantastic.
All good.
Now that's the sort of the APAT poker scene covered off, Lee. But one other APAT item that I know you probably want to touch upon. Have you just taken a beat in the UKIP stat?
Just lost the heads up again.
You were heads up for the seat.
Yeah. Reshoved with ace 9, and he's got pocket queens. Player I recognise, Dan, you might know him. Jabracada.
That's Tom Hall.
Is it?
Oh,
okay.
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
No shame in losing to him.
Who?
Okay.
Who?
Tom Hall.
Yeah, I was gonna say you haven't got to be embarrassed about losing.
Well, to be perfectly honest, he's raised. I've repopped it with Ace 9. He had a 2-1 chip lead on me, and he's woken up with Queens. I mean, it's not a lot I'm doing with that, to be honest. He's quite aggro heads up. Yeah, quite aggro heads up, to be honest. Maybe Ace 9 I should have, but it was kind of getting to the point where I'm like, well, I need to start firing back a bit here, but didn't even know who that was then. Okay, so now I know. There we go. And Simon, well, if Simon says it, it must be true. I mean, I wasn't sure when you both said it, but when Simon Lawler says that it is, then yeah.
It's got to be true, Lee. It just has to be true.
Yeah, well, Tom Hall's heading off to London to the UK IPT, and I'm not at the moment. But that's heads up. That's heads up twice in 1 week. So one for a London one for a Brighton one. So I'm doing something sort of right. I think just not my heads up game. Clearly,
not bad, Lee. Just not getting it done right at the line. Fantasy Premier League. So it's up and running, Lee. Football is back, and you've had a huge number of entries into the Fantasy Premier League. Again, if I'm not mistaken.
Nuts. Yeah, absolutely nuts. And it's still open now. So if you've already got a team registered and you want to get involved, just go on the Facebook group and you'll see the code to get you into that, and you can do it. So we'll leave it open we normally leave it for a couple of weeks for anybody that's put a team in, but they haven't actually added themselves into the league. So we make sure we get them included. But yeah, we're very much up and running now. After Friday, Rob Swindells was leading the way. Absolutely leading the way with his team, which I think is called Make Mine a Treble. Can't think why.
You have a triple captain on Haaland
he had a double captain of Haaland, and he also had. Who else did he have? He had the midfielder that scored, whose name has completely just gone blank for me for City, and one of their defenders as well. So he was in a very good place. But he has been overtaken after today's games, and Dylan Herbert is currently leading the way with his team called Strawberry Daiquiri.
Wow,
he's on 85 points at the moment. Just one more game to go this week, which is tomorrow night, Monday Night Football, which is when the real football starts, because it's Man United against Wolves tomorrow night. So chaps, do we want to? Tom doesn't want to talk about the first weekend of the season.
I don't mind really.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about that particular game, because it is the team that are top of the table. I genuinely thought Newcastle had made a couple of good signings. I thought Villa had made a couple of good signings. I was expecting the game to be a lot closer than that, my thought was that Newcastle probably are going to have a bit of a dip this season because they're going to be playing Champions League and they're not going to be able to balance the whole thing off. But to start with, you looked as good as them. It looked a fairly even game, and then they absolutely just flew away with it.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrone Mings getting injured was a big blow because he was one of our best players last year. And it looks like he's done his ACL, so he's probably out for the season. And I think that probably affected us a bit before half time. But the second half, Conser just made a random error where he just misses the ball and Isak scores to make it 3-1. And then from then, I think they could have easily got 7 or 8. They just carved us up every time they went forward, which is kind of worrying. But not, we wouldn't have expected to have Torres coming straight in, and I don't think he necessarily would play in a back four always, or not in that position.
Yeah.
But pretty demoralising, especially as this has been probably the most optimistic I've ever known Villa fans to be over the summer, because we've made some really good signings. We've looked good in pre-season, and towards the end of last season we're really good. But also, having said that, Newcastle are a good side, and I don't usually put a lot of stock into records at certain grounds, because obviously, the team 5 years ago is not the same team as the team now. But we always seem to get battered whenever we go to Newcastle. So it's kind of a bit of a bogey ground for us. So the result is annoying, and obviously not a great way to start the season. But I think the the injuries. So we had Mings injured in that game, and then Buendia injured in the 2 days before. Both probably out for the season. Those are probably much more detrimental things than the actual defeat itself. And like I said, Newcastle are a good side, so that it's not like it's against someone who I think we should have beaten.
I have to say, having watched the game on Match of the Day, so highlights only, thought Newcastle really benefited from Tonali. He looks like he'll be a great addition for them running forward. Interesting with St. Maxim gone now, how maybe the ball's going to find its way into other parts of the pitch, so maybe they're a little less predictable. But it was the first time I've watched Newcastle in years that I got that Ginola sort of feel that they had in the mid-90s when Kevin Keegan was the boss and stuff like that. They seem to be pretty dynamic, I have to say. Whether they'll be able to keep it going given the Champions League, and of course that's a concern for Villa as well, given that you guys have European football as well, Tom, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll probably affect us less, maybe because we're in the Conference League, which is going to be less of a tough standard than the Champions League, obviously.
Potentially more travel though, or wider travel.
Possibly, yeah. But I think there will probably be a lot more games where we're fairly clear favourites to win.
But you've got to fancy your chances at winning that, yeah. After what West Ham did last year, you've got to seriously say, that's a winnable tournament, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, and especially with Emery having a really really good record in cups.
Yeah,
obviously, he's won the Europa League numerous times, so he's the perfect manager for that. We do have a bigger squad than we did last season, where we're probably going to be able to rotate in the cups and have kind of like a cup team and a league team to some extent. But obviously, again, in getting various players injured, and we've got a couple of injuries that we'd already had coming into the season, is slightly not ideal for that. But yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you, Lead. I think Newcastle might struggle a bit when they have Champions League week in, week out. But I think at the start of the season, they'll probably be just as good as they were last year.
Evening, Mr. Brooke.
Is that Mr. Brooke?
Do you want to know? Do you want to know why? You know what? So right. So this T-shirt, there's 3 different designs, and this is the Tyson Fury design. So that's the reason why he's asking that question.
Is that for wide-chested men?
I've no idea.
Because I can't see all of the words there, Lee. That's all that I'm saying. Okay. So a big year, coming for Villa, and Villa will. There's no question Villa will bounce back from that one. I mean, I saw Emery interviewed after the game. He didn't seem that stressed by it. I mean, I'm sure he's far from happy, but at the same stage, what you've got there experience-wise, I'm sure he won't allow them to get their heads down for too long. Who do you have up next, Tom?
We've got Everton at home, which is probably the kind of fixture you want.
Bit of a settler.
Yeah. I think Everton could go down this year. I don't think their team is very good, and they don't seem to have added.
I don't see how they're going to get enough goals.
Yeah, well, they created plenty of chances against Fulham.
But I think they'll be fairly. Yeah, but that's the problem. I think they'll be fairly organised, and they won't concede too many, and they'll be a difficult team to break down. But I don't see them banging in more than 2 goals in very many games, in which case it's always going to be difficult for them to pick up points.
I think the problem for Everton, or one of the problems, is that if they go to Villa and they drop points there, I think the crowd will turn on them viciously. I think it'll happen very, very quickly. And if they don't manage to get a top striker in during the window, I mean, more pay up front isn't going to do it, I don't think.
Trouble is we've talked about this on the show before. Trying to find a top striker is not easy, and there's a club in North London at the moment that are going to need a top striker, and they've got money to burn. And I thought that watching the game today, I thought, Tottenham are just lacking somebody that could stick the ball in the back of the net for 20 or 30 goals a season, aren't they? That's what they could do with, isn't it? Really, I mean,
if only they had one of them, Lee, right?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Priceless. Absolutely priceless to have one of them.
You better be careful saying that Tottenham have got money to do. Mr. Leahy might be listening.
Well, he certainly will. He's going to have to move pretty quick and find a replacement. But there aren't that many number 9s out there. This is the problem. It's the problem United have, and why we possibly paid over the odds for Højlund. because there aren't that many number 9s that are available that are you can guarantee goals. They're just not happening. Obviously, we saw on Friday night, Haaland took all of 3 minutes to do what he does best. But not many teams can have one of those. It's not easy.
There's a brilliant international number 9 who is second choice at his club in the Premiership, who I reckon could knock in a few goals for somebody. Didn't start many games last year, but does start up front for the Welsh national team.
We're all going, who the hell is that?
I think it's Kiefer Moore, which is a...
Yeah, but come on.
He might not be quite the standard that Tottenham are looking for, but
you can stick it in the box and he'll win a header.
Listen, I mean, wouldn't Spurs be wise to? I know he's only a kid in many respects, but he seems to have a good, bright future ahead of him. Ferguson at Brighton, he's only 18 or 19. So
I was amazed. I was amazed we didn't. I was gobsmacked. We didn't. We didn't
get a bright prospect.
Obviously, if you want to buy anybody from Brighton these days, it starts at 100 million. Obviously, we know that's the deal. I mean, how much profit have they turned in recent years? I don't know whether it's totted up, but it must be ridiculous amount.
25 minutes ago, it was confirmed that Chelsea have bought Caicedo. So he was bought by Brighton for 4 million, and they sold him for 115.
and they had Enzo off them last year for another 100 million.
Yeah.
They had who's the left back? Cucurella.
Yeah.
He was 6. So basically Chelsea have given Brighton the best part of $250 million in the last 2 years.
So is it any wonder Tony Bloom doesn't play poker anymore?
Not even 2 years, is it? It's like 18 months, a year. Yeah.
But they're also improving while they're recouping all this massive amounts of money. They're like improving as a team, and you'd think losing, significant and key players for them, but they lose a couple every season, and then keep producing the goods. And
that's impressive.
Well, I've got Ferguson in my FPL team on the basis that I thought, well, he had a good kind of breakthrough season last year, played a number of games, got a load of goals. He's probably going to be getting close to starting, but he started Danny Welbeck again. But of course, when Ferguson came on, stuck a goal in and proved this. I would hope as the season goes on, Ferguson will start becoming the main striker there, and will do the business.
Well, I'm excited about him because obviously he's Irish, right? And Ireland need a couple of good players. So a player like him, and with obviously Grealish and Rice in midfield, I reckon we might take a bit of a run at the next World Cup.
Hold on,
we don't have the Gaelic football playing Grealish, do we?
Has he been capped yet, Ferguson?
Yes, he has. Yeah, he scored. He scored for the.
Okay, I was going to say
we capped him at about 12. We put him in against Spain in a World Cup qualifier at 12.
Yeah, Southgate's not called him up for a game and just got him in. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Look, with a price tag of over 100 million, I'm pretty sure Caicedo must be Irish as well.
I was going to say, if he turns out to be the real deal, Ireland only need 8 or 9 players to field a decent team.
Oh man, it's so bad at the moment. It is so bad.
So I mean, whilst we're on the Chelsea front, then weird game this afternoon. Chelsea looked good to start with, then Liverpool came flying back into it, and to be honest, could have gone 2 up if the second one hadn't have been offside, maybe even 3 up. Then Chelsea back into it again, and then I thought Chelsea dominated after that.
Yeah, strange game. I thought Liverpool had pretty much of the first 30 minutes. Obviously took the lead. Very, very tight offside goal on Salah, and Salah hit the crossbar. Could have been 3, could have been out of sight. Chelsea looked fantastic. Well, I say fantastic. I mean, it's hard to know really where both of these teams are, right? I suppose that's the reality because they're going through unpredictable phases. I thought the football from both sides looked pretty good. Defensively, I thought they both looked pretty rocky, but they're both missing sort of, strong, influential defensive midfielders. It was pretty much what they've been fighting together for over the last 2 months, 3 months. So it looks like Chelsea have taken Kachida. They also seem to be winning the battle for Lavia. We'll see. I don't know how they're paying for all of this, but that's content for a whole show.
What does that? Where does that leave Liverpool if you've lost both of those targets? Obviously, you've signed midfielders in the transfer window, but you are still looking for that defensive midfielder to sit there and basically shield the back four. Who's next on the list? If you've failed with both of those, where do you go next?
Well, I mean, there is a list. There's always a list, but good number sixes are hard to come by. But Liverpool have showed their hand to a degree. They've shown that they've got cash. So if they were prepared to offer 110 million for Caicedo, then arguably, there should be no shortage of agents coming to them right now, sort of saying, "Well, I know this kid from Galway, right? 120 should secure him." So we'll turn up with 2 or 3 players yet.
You could do with a friend for Andy Robertson, a Scottish friend for Andy Robertson to in the team.
McTominay? No, I don't.
We could sell you McTominay
like Fred. You've gotten rid of half of that. So.
Oh, we can't. Yeah, sorry, Fred's already gone. They don't come as a pair anymore now. Sorry, that's no longer a thing. So
McTominay's not a bad.
Can't do that.
McTominay's not a bad player. Ironically,
to be honest,
not a bad player at all.
I think the reality of it is probably with. Player. Well, no, with Fred going and Manu getting injured in pre-season is likely to be out for a number of months. I'd be very surprised if McTominay now leaves the club unless we're definitely bringing in an additional midfielder. So I'd be surprised if that happens. The one that I think is a bit of a strange one at the moment is what's happening with Martial. I'm wondering whether we could flog him to Tottenham. Whether that's a doable thing or not. There's a weird thing going on, which is Højlund doesn't have a shirt number yet.
Okay, so you think they're waiting to give him a number 9?
It's really, really weird. Højlund doesn't have a shirt number yet. It's so they put the list into the Premier League, but it's not numbered there. It's not numbered on the website. It's a bit of a stranger. He is injured, so they're not actually going to play him for the first couple of weeks. So that they don't technically have to actually register him with the Premier League yet until they're going to play him. So it's not an issue from that point of view. But it is a bit of a weird one. Why they've not just gone, okay, Martial's definitely staying. There's none of those sorts of numbers where you go, well, he'd obviously drop into there. Mason Mount has taken the number 7 shirt. Fernandez took the number 8, and so Maguire's going, so that'll free up the 5. Bally's going, to that'll free up the number 3.
Maguire definitely going?
If not, to be honest, they'll retire the shirt number. I mean, he's not going to play, so it doesn't really matter. But it's a really weird one that so that he's signed, he's on the website, it's all done. But doesn't have a shirt number yet.
Do you remember that guy who the gentleman who delivered a package to Sky News going back about 10 years ago, and he somehow ended up being interviewed on the news about some scientific or ecological topic, and he literally
BBC,
sat there,
wasn't it? It was
on the BBC.
It was on BBC.
It was the BBC. You're right. And he sat there and looked at the interview, going, "Yes, very important. The sun is off and everything is fine. So yeah, very, very important." And he went for. Do you think Højlund, Haaland, the look and everything, is he actually a footballer? I mean, has anybody actually seen this kid play? Because
he's
seriously,
do you mean is he the next Ali Dia?
Yeah, that's the one. The guy, he got a game for somebody, didn't
George Weah's cousin,
Southampton.
Yeah. He got about 40 minutes, and they said, well,
when Graham Souness was they
he
signed
hasn't
him.
been seen since.
He came off the bench. And they substituted him back off again after a chunk of time because he
replaced Matthew Le Tissier after 56 minutes, and after 63 minutes he left the pitch never to play again. But he got his 1 month contract. He definitely got his 15 minutes of fame because we all know who he is.
But it is an interesting one. Is why Højlund's not got a shirt number yet, and you kind of would suggest that it can only be because they're waiting to see who else they're going to shift out, and that would suggest that is it the number 9 shirt? Is it, as Steve Forty points out, or is it Mason Greenwood's number 11 shirt that they're waiting to make a decision on?
Listen, they're not waiting for Mason Greenwood's shirt number clarification.
I'd imagine
to give this guy a shirt. But let's just ask the question about Mason Greenwood, because bizarrely, I feel it does seem like we've reached this point whereby apparently, I'm not sure if this is true, the club is waiting for the Man United women members of the England squad to get back from the World Cup.
I believe
for
so.
A final bit of consultation to decide what they're going to do. Why ever are they doing that? What's it got to do with the women members of the England team from Man United?
I think it's a bigger picture thing, isn't it? So I think it's the right thing to do to make sure everyone's being consulted. That feels like
They've had how many months to consult on this?
Well, but for whatever reason, they're choosing to do that. My gut feel is he will be integrated back into the squad. I don't think he'll be going anywhere. Is my gut feel.
Would you want him integrated back into the squad?
Me personally,
and I'm not. You've got to weigh up the balance here.
I think me personally, I think it's a case of he's not been found guilty of anything. There's a lot of evidence, a lot in the public. There's a lot in the public domain which would suggest that he's a wrong 'un, and he's done some pretty bad things. But you can't. But again, you've got nothing to actually categorically say yes, that's actually fact. It's based on I haven't seen all the evidence. Or know all the evidence to be able to comment on that. So I guess to a certain extent, you've got to go with we've gone through the process, and he's not been found guilty of anything.
So what if one of United's England players, the women's team, says, "Well, no, I don't think he should play." Does that then does somebody's personal opinion?
No, I think it's more going
through.
I think it's more going through the process. I think, to be honest, more than anything else, I don't think it's one particular person's opinion is going to make a decision. I think it's making sure that everybody feels like they've been part of whatever the internal process is. I think that's what
do you not think, and take the football out, because there's no doubt that he's a talented football player, but do you not think if this goes to the board, but more importantly, probably the social media and the PR team, that they would say, actually, it's going to be so negatively detrimental for Man United that he's now he's a liability.
So let me ask you this then, Dan. If do you think there's any club out there that would sign him, or would they all take exactly the same view you've just suggested? Because he's a wrong 'un. He's a bad egg. It doesn't look good on the club. So any club that then goes to sign him will have exactly the same thing. So are we saying that effectively his football career is over because nobody should sign him because it's a bad PR position to be in?
So I'm probably just going to point out another innocent football player, Jed Evans. And even though he was considered to be innocent, and he was cleared of all charges, he was pretty much the Antichrist, and he could not get a game at a reasonable level, or certainly the level that he was used to playing at and deserved to play at. Did he end up someone like Chesterfield, Colchester? Do you know what I mean?
Something like that. Yeah.
Honestly, I think his game in England is career in England is finished. I think he might end up in France or Germany or something.
Because but why do you think he can end up there? Because they're more tolerant of this, or what? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense.
Because I don't think it will have filled the French media, and I don't think there'd be that much animosity.
So therefore he's going to not get to play in England because of the media.
I think the media have an awful lot to do with it. I do think the media have an awful lot to do with it. And if that's possible, and if teams look at him as too much a risk, he'll end up. Look, I'm pretty sure that they'd welcome him with open arms somewhere like Turkey. I'm just saying they have a different stance of what is acceptable and what isn't. and what might be considered unacceptable behaviour here. I mean, he has been cleared and he has been innocent. However, I mean, I don't know all the evidence and everything in the case, but I don't
think he's been cleared. I would say. I think
I've heard the recordings and I've heard the tapes.
Yeah, I would agree. He's not been found guilty, but it's not that he's been cleared. It's just charges have been dropped, isn't it?
He hasn't been found not guilty. Is the difference, I think.
The issue with this one, to a degree, I suppose, is that, and whether it's right or wrong, the evidence that has apparently surfaced on this one has been heard far and wide, particularly in this country, because this is where he plays, right? He's a young English player. It was very big news here when it first surfaced, in a way that, for example, it probably wasn't in many other footballing countries, because the player wasn't as well known, maybe not as many supporters, whatever. But I think in a lot of people's minds, he's seen as a wrong 'un. And is that the sort of message that you want to send out to young supporters of a club, that's okay? That's the question, right?
Yeah, if a player who's found not guilty can't make that comeback because they're still considered a wrong 'un, what is the chance for a guy who's just had charges dropped and not been, he hasn't been found not guilty? For me, I think his career is just, you'd have to say your position's untenable because
so it's interesting to wonder then why the club haven't already come to that conclusion then.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the strange thing then, because this has been going on for a while now. I think the charges got dropped. When was that? Back in February, March time, or maybe a little bit later than that, but it was certainly before the end of the season, wasn't it? It does make you wonder. They were going to have an internal investigation. They've now kind of dragged that out a little bit. They said they were going to make an announcement last week. They didn't. It does make you wonder, well, what's the holdup? If it isn't that they're trying to find a mechanism to just go, okay, well, we're going to bring him back in. Because if you were going to let him go by now, you'd have let him go by now. You could have signed for another club, wherever that may be, Turkey, wherever you think it might be, and got on with playing this season. So
I wonder if there's an element of just allowing it all to die down a bit after he was found not guilty. Clearly, that wasn't not guilty. The charges were dropped. Clearly, that wouldn't have been the right time to have brought him back immediately. But I wonder if there's, maybe a decision was taken to just let this thing rest for a few months, perhaps.
But you've got another case. You've got another situation with. I mean, Ryan Giggs is a similar kind of situation whereby charges have been dropped, or it went to. Did that go to a retrial? It wasn't found guilty in the first, but it went to a retrial, or it went on again, didn't it? And then they dropped it second time round because they didn't want to go through. I think that's how it panned out.
It got dropped.
Yeah. So again, I mean, can you see him coming back into football? I'm not sure.
No, I can't.
I suppose what we're saying here is that it's down to the employer, right? So the prospective employer, or the employer in this case, to decide whether or not, they're comfortable with that as a potential reputational risk, right? Because you don't know for sure until United come out and say, we're going to reintegrate this player back into the playing squad. Until they do that, they won't know for sure what the reaction will be, right? And they can take a view, well, potentially he's a 70, 80 million pound footballer, so it's worth taking that risk, and maybe we get rid of him in 12 to 18 months' time because he's re-achieved some value. And I know that's a very businessy way to look at it, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody somewhere is taking a business view on this.
But it is business, and that's the way you have to look at it. It's interesting. You sent me a really interesting Twitter article earlier on about the Chelsea financial situation, and it kind of the whole thing around financial fair play and everything else now, and player contracts and how you amortize those players over what period of time, and where you therefore put the profit and loss and it all. It's become creative accounting within football clubs to get around these things. And when you start breaking down the numbers to go, well, actually, there's certain players that a club can sell that will benefit them from financial fair play, but there's other players that there's no point in them selling them at that price because it doesn't actually impact on their profit and loss because of what they'd have to write down what's already sat on their books for what they would sell players. And when you look at it like that, you can see why Chelsea sold the likes of Mason Mount because he was 0 on their books. So they could maximise by selling him to United for 50, 60 million. It maximised the profit that they could put on their bottom line to go against their other purchases. Whereas trying to sell on something that they've already bought that's still got a value on their books, and it's just got nuts. That's where it is now. That football clubs have got to seriously look at these numbers. And United might be looking at it and going, well, Mason Greenwood has cost us nothing. He's nothing on our books. Therefore, if we can actually get this through and even decide to sell him on at some point, it helps balance. It helps balance things out.
Yeah. So I think there's an element of just wanting to let it die down a bit. And then they'll make their decision, but they've got to make it soon, right? He's got to have a number. He's got to be sort of announced in the squad, presumably before the end of.
Well, he's
August.
not. So he's not in this. I don't think he's in this squad that's been announced for to the Premier League, but he has been put back into one of the online games. Back in some
online games.
Sort of read on. Yeah, like FIFA or something like that. He's back in. He's back in there somewhere, I think, when he originally got dropped. But yeah, so we will see. Watch this space.
How bizarre! But anyway, we will see. Watch this space. We'll discuss it. I have no doubt, as and when that one comes up. I'm glad it's not my club having to make that decision. It does feel a bit risky because there are a lot of women that support Man United.
I think if it was a £15 million player, the decision had already been decided.
Oh Christ! Yeah,
I think it's purely.
I think so. Yeah.
Purely on football talent and value.
Yeah, and I think the reality is, if he was still playing now, and the last 2 years or whatever hadn't have happened, looking at the market at the moment, I mean, how much would a Mason Greenwood be worth?
120
today?
million.
Yeah, probably.
I think if he's some random foreign player, they probably get rid of him straight away as well. Whereas this is someone who's come through the youth system and stuff, they probably feel more invested in him, and then maybe also more of a duty of care to him as an individual, I guess.
And that is a point, Tom, as well. There is actually still a duty of care to him. He is still an employee of the club. He's still contracted to the club, and until they decide that he has actually brought the club into disrepute and therefore has broken effectively his contract, and they've got a reason to actually get rid of him, there is a case that he could argue the case that I've not done anything wrong other than some stuff's got into the public domain that probably shouldn't have. And
I don't think that would come into it, because in all footballers' contractors, they will have a bringing the club into disrepute contract.
Does this?
They have to be whiter than white. And
Steve puts this up, of course. Does this change the situation in any way, shape, or form? Him and his girlfriend are having a baby.
Not really.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's like Love Island meets Big Brother meets. I mean, it's meets Jerry Springer.
It changes it in that she's now less incentivized to press charges.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, and give evidence.
Yeah, so it probably changes it to his benefit, I would say.
Hence, the charges were dropped, but he's not. But everybody knows, I guess, what happened.
Yeah, it's a mess.
You can't unhear the recordings, and
yeah. Joking aside, and this, I'm sure Simon meant this in jest. Why, in this season, in particular, why are all these footballers going to play in the Saudi League? I mean, obviously, I know the bottom line answer. It's all to do with Wonga, right? But why does that all seem to occur this season? It's astonishing how many.
The Saudi League are just making a big push to try and turn their league into a force in terms of comparing it to European leagues.
Yeah, and the difference is where these super oligarch rich billionaires buy teams. The one who's pushing the Saudi League is obviously the king of Saudi Arabia, who's got all the money in the world. Yeah. So instead of just pushing one team, he's pushing the entire league. And I think I think it was not so long ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. They're not just pushing the top league in Saudi. I think the third league in Saudi Arabia, they're offering people over here from like the Conference and League One astonishing mega packages to go over there, including a free house, a free Ferrari, and the equivalent of about 150,000 a year. So, which isn't, $3,000 a week isn't crazy money, but it probably is for a Conference or a League One player.
Just sell the Ferrari.
Yeah. As a welcome to Saudi bonus, you can have a supercar to drive around.
That's exactly what I did. I just sold the Ferrari. That was the way I went with it.
You sold the Ferrari?
Yeah. Easiest way to do it. So a couple of things in the chat. We've just got to make sure we don't miss out on. Simon Brooke asked the question, what did Tom watch at the cinema this evening? Simon Lawler says he's really enjoying that drink for sure. So there's comments about your drink, Tom. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I didn't actually go to the cinema. But I do have a Tango Ice Blast.
Barbie, you've been Barbieing, haven't you? Come on, you can tell us. You're amongst friends here, Tom.
There's a co-op over the road from me that does ice blasts, so I thought I'd treat myself to an evening drink.
APAT live stream and an ice blast. Beautiful.
Very nice. And the other thing I just picked up that I saw Simon Lawler say, which I didn't, we're going back to a kind of a poker thing here, but did you see that the Rio is closing in October? Apparently the staff have been issued statutory notices today.
Holy shitballs. No. Really?
Yeah. So, apparently
I thought it was being demolished.
Well, it's been talking about being demolished for a long, long time, to be honest. I thought the moving of the WSOP was kind of final nail.
I got to be honest. As soon as they decided to move the WSOP, I mean, people aren't gonna. The rooms had obviously deteriorate to such a level to renovate and whatever. It is literally quicker and more financially economical to chuck some dynamite and.
Well, when we were out there in the summer, so Stu Rutter stayed at the Rio, and he said, it's perfectly fine. It is kind of one of the cheap hotels to stay these days. Paul and I went to see Penn and Teller there. We were both out of another poker tournament one evening, so we decided to go and grab some tickets to go and see Penn and Teller. We'd not seen for about 8 years, and whilst we were there, we took a wander down that long corridor. Des, you'll know the one I mean. Get down to the convention, and you thinking, well, we'll just go and see where all the rooms are, and it's just blocked off. Because that time of year, there's that whole convention centre at the back of the Rio when the World Series time is on elsewhere, there's nothing going on there whatsoever. But of course, the Tom, who's not yet been to Vegas, is never gonna get to experience the Rio.
No, although for everyone I've heard speak about it says it's a dump. So
yeah, and it is that problem that list. It is kind of off the strip, so it is like a little bit of a pain to get to. But
it did have a certain charm because obviously the magic of the World Series that all went there and all the moves there. But as I said, I'm sure that won't die, and I'm sure that'll continue to grow, and it's only going to be bigger and it'll have a different magic, obviously being on the strip and being easy. You haven't got. I mean, the shuttle bus. The shuttle buses were the thing back and forth to the Rio. You'd spend 3 hours a day shuttle busing yourself to get there and back because
I could never understand why a Vegas casino was promoting Crystal Palace. I could never get my head around that.
You have to let us in. That's a private joke, Des. No,
really. The colours. Yeah,
it was like a big Palace shirt.
Oh, right, okay.
Literally was like a shirt, and every time I passed the Rio or saw the Rio, I thought Palace, because Palace used to have the strange sort of designed shirts in absolutely those colours. But sad in some respects to see it go, albeit, Simon, I think, nailed it there. If they implode it, need to keep windows shut nearby to avoid legionnaires.
Well, I'm seeing that news. I'm even happier that Paul and I got to go and see Penn and Teller again one more time, which was an incredible show for the night. So, because I would guess with the Rio closing and them both getting on a bit in years, that they may well be call it a day on. I think it's the longest running show in Vegas or something. I'm sure they quoted it as something like that. Or
it's something like 36 37 years, 36, 37 years, isn't it?
Yeah, something ridiculous like that.
Insane. And to be honest, they're due to retire anyway, so that probably has a lot to do with the Rio closing.
Makes sense.
It
makes sense.
Anyway, I want 30 seconds to touch on something because none of you pointed at the biggest football story of the last couple of weeks, and we did go on to obviously Villa getting into the Europa.
No, go on. Yeah, back to football. Go on then. What you got for
the
us?
Europa Conference League and how Villa were gonna are obviously favourites to do it. But there was another team that managed to sneak into the Europa Conference League this year. Haverfordwest County AFC, for the first time in their entire careers, my hometown played European football.
Wow, it's amazing.
And they did get through the first qualifying round against the Macedonian third place team called Skendrida, and they've just been knocked out by the Faroe Islands runners-up, I think, called EP36.
What an adventure. What I regularly see is it Bala, the Welsh team? They're always small Welsh teams getting through to, and it's great to see.
The ones you might see are probably TNS, the new
TNS in particular, regularly.
Total Network Solutions.
Yeah.
And there's another team that was taken over and given a sponsorship name. I can't remember. It used to be Barrytown.
See it with a couple of the Irish teams as well. And the bizarre thing is, whenever you see the fixtures or the results from those three competitions, now I will always comb through the first round, the qualifying round, stuff like that before you get to the group stages to see if any Irish teams, are in a promising position or getting half a result or anything like that, because it's great to see, the magic of European football.
Coleraine were in the qualifying this year.
Coleraine regularly, I think, play in Europe. Linfield, those are Northern Irish teams.
You've got all this to come this season, Tom. All of those teams, pretty much. I don't think it's going to get any better. It's going to get any better.
You want all of them, Tom. Believe me, you can put out your third team. You'll be fine. Put out the kids.
Well, we've got either Luzerne from Switzerland or Hibs in the next round, so that'd be quite fun if we. Have
you got to play a qualifying before you get in the group stage?
Yeah.
I don't think either of them would be an absolute pushover, I have to say. But Villa should be fairly comfortable. But nonetheless, those are both.
I would say those two are probably better teams than some of the teams that are already qualified for the group stages of it.
Than most of the teams. Yeah.
That seems a crazy situation, really.
And Hibs are ranked about 6th in the non-existent pub league that is the Scottish Premiership.
Yeah.
Well, they must have finished maybe 3rd or 4th last season, I'm guessing. To get into the
Aberdeen finished 3rd. Aberdeen finished 3rd. So 4th and 5th, maybe. Don't know. Top two champions? Is it top one Champions League? Then direct to Europa. Then Europa qualifying.
Yeah. So talking about winning football cups. The Lionesses are into the semi-finals. Do we think this is this going to be it? Is this going to happen?
Well, haven't looked that convincing so far.
Yeah, but sort of that hasn't stopped them, right? They've made it all the way through. No. I don't think Australia have looked that convincing. I saw them in their first match against Ireland, and I mean,
do you think the pressure of being a host for Australia will? It'll be. I mean, so Australia beat England's unbeaten run earlier on in the year. They're the only team that have beaten them in, 40 odd games or something like that. But that doesn't really mean that much. Is the pressure on Australia really?
I think the pressure's on all of them over there, and I've got to be honest. I don't think the British media are helping them. I think they're piling unnecessary pressure on them. I've seen the big one this week that's doing the rounds is the Chloe Kelly penalty is quicker and more powerful than any shot that was recorded in the Premiership last year. Well, it's not true because they don't record penalties and shots inside the 18-yard box
But isn't it true, Dan, that we tend to find out that actually teams who are playing the tournaments tend to be quite removed from what the British press generally, in the sense of what's happening in the country, can go quite removed from it. And I don't get a sense that it's as anywhere near as big at the moment. And that might change, but as the Euros were when the Euros were here, I felt it was very big then. Everybody was watching. I don't get that sense at the moment. Maybe because the team isn't performing as well as it is. But they could certainly find themselves in the final. And then you're 90, well, what? You're about 145 minutes away from potentially winning the thing, you know?
Yeah. And look, you can't knock them. Some of the ladies took absolutely amazing penalties, and when they went down to 10 men, I think they did what they had to do. They absorbed some pressure and they battled well, and I think they deserve to be where they are. It would be nice to see them play with a little bit with what we know that they can do, because we have seen them do it, and we've seen them play an awful lot better than they are currently performing.
What do we make of Laura James? Is it Laura James? Is that right?
Lauren
James. Yes. Fantastic World Cup, up to the point that she did a Bex on the Colombian player.
I don't think she did a Bex.
Well, it was Bex in that it was a little bit.
Bex was far more petulant, whereas
but it was a bit petulant, wasn't it? What was she doing?
She was a proper old stamp down. I mean, Bex was a bit of a flick out, wasn't it? It wasn't a bit of nothing.
She didn't really apply any weight, though, did she?
Mm.
I mean, it wasn't. It didn't look to me like anything more than I want to just quickly do something.
But trying to defend her, that she knows what she's doing. She knows that there's 101 million cameras on her, and
it was stupid.
It's just the most ridiculous thing ever to do. Because and there's no real reason why at that time to actually do that. There's only ever one outcome, right?
It just seems mad. But what a great tournament she'd been having up to then. And of course, she would come back to the final if England beat Australia. And of course, it'd be really interesting to see whether she'd be put in the first 11 for the final. I suspect she would.
I don't really think so. I don't think she would. I think you'd have. I think if this team got them through to the final now, I don't see how you then start. You start with her. I think she'd have to be on the bench and could still do a lot from there. But I'd struggle to see how you could start with her.
Yeah, I'd be astonished if she wasn't in the first 11 for the final if they get through. I completely understand where you're coming from, Lee. Completely understand it. But I think when push comes to the shove, she has been by far and away their best player. I think she's got a goal threat, right? That they've suffered.
But she's only done that in a couple of games. She's only done that in a couple of games. Before then, she wasn't. It's just come good in a few games. And to be fair, England, apart from one game this tournament, haven't been great.
Yeah, but it was the most recent games,
really,
right?
That was the point. They really have just found a way to get through. They've not, and it's actually not really been enjoyable to watch. Some of the other games have been absolutely superb, but the England games have been pretty dire to watch. Apart from the goal fest,
apart from the 6 against
China. They've really not been good games to watch.
And that could have been the catalyst to start it, because I think the game before that they beat Haiti 1-0.
Yeah.
And that was probably the worst game.
But even the Colombia one, I mean, it was 2 lucky goals in the first half, 1 for each team. Yeah. Because that wasn't meant from Colombia. It's a cross, and I don't actually even think the keeper's positioning is that bad. I think it's absolutely looped in. They get gifted one the other side. Russo's finish was superb, really good. Yeah. Muscled away through that, and an excellent finish. That was good. But other than that, there wasn't a huge amount of quality. Colombia ruffled them up good and proper, and made it difficult. And England found a way then, just once they got the lead, to just see it out, and did that well. No criticism of it. Did it well. But from an entertainment point of view, it wasn't a great game, and we've seen a lot of mistakes leading to goals in this tournament. A lot of keeping errors. And unnecessary keeping errors. It's been a strange one, but again, lots of skill to go with it as well.
John Murray's out there. Dan is our own David Coleman. When they went down to 10 men, he's quite right. You did say when they went down to 10 men, Dan.
I did.
I didn't want to call you on it, but
No, I did, and I'll hold my hands up. I think somebody else admitted to saying that.
I think I was watching I was listening to the England game before that. No, maybe it was that one on my way home from Coventry. When would that have been? Or maybe when I was traveling somewhere else, or maybe going up on Friday. And there was a sending off in that, and whoever it was on TalkSport three times said down to 10 men. And I'm in the car going. Natalie Bromley will be going mental. She'll be going mental at this. Like, what's going on?
I think from a Freudian slip point of view, I think Brom has even said it once.
Yeah, no. To be fair, I think Gaz might have said it in a chat the other day, and he then apologised. And Natalie said, "To be honest, that's the least of our worries." Yeah, is terminology that people have been using for their entire life to get into the habit of not saying down to 10 men or man on. Yeah, it is. Man on.
So Wednesday, guys, right? Wednesday, the semi-final against Australia. Predictions around the room.
I think it'll go to penalties.
Oh yeah, I was going to say extra time.
Yeah. I think
low scoring. Neither teams look like they're going to score a lot of goals.
Yeah, it's going to be 0-0 penalties, or a 1-0 will take it. I want to take the under 1.5 in that game.
Yeah. So tune in for a 9-goal thriller, everybody, on Wednesday.
Apparently, Simon Lawler is still watching the Australia penalty shootout. It's still ongoing. With
still going on.
By all accounts, they're up to 69 penalties each. It was like United, United and Real Sociedad, or
in the Europa League.
That was an insane
in the Europa
game.
League final.
They all scored.
Like 11-10 or something.
Everyone was, but every one of them was scored. Until De Gea missed. Yeah, every single one was scored.
Outrageous.
Didn't Chelsea do the same with
in the League Cup?
Yeah, until Kepa came
until Kepa, the one who made a big thing about it.
That ball is still travelling.
I hadn't realised that actually the first goal this afternoon was the first time there'd been a goal in the Chelsea-Liverpool game for about 5 games. I think 4 or 5 games. It's been 4-0.
It's mad, isn't it? It's mad. A couple of Wembley finals in there as well.
Crazy.
Right.
Crazy.
Lee of the Wiltshires, is there any other business we need to cover off before we close this thing down?
No, I think we're pretty much there. So what we should say is we talked about WCOAP earlier on. If you do want to buy into any of those 23 bracelet events that Dan mentioned, you can buy in via Lux and Pay or at the Dusk Till Dawn cash desk. You can do either of those. Satellites will be on GG again from tomorrow night. So you can satellite in, pound into a 5 or into a 25, into a 150. Should make the point, the 150 tickets can buy you into the online day ones the following Monday and Tuesday. Any unused tickets after that second online day one on the Tuesday will get turned into credit at Dusk Till Dawn from the Wednesday. So what will happen is any tickets you've not used in your GG accounts on Wednesday morning, somebody from GG will go in, see who's got what, let Dusk Till Dawn know, and then if you go to the cash desk, basically, they will have your name with an amount of money along next to you. And before you ask us, I cannot get you on that list. Doesn't matter what you say, I cannot get you on that list. And basically, so whatever you've got additional. So if you choose, you'd have to play an online day one if you want to. I'd strongly recommend it, because I think they're really good value, because it's registration free and frees you up for the rest of the week. So I strongly recommend it. But any tickets you don't use, because we've got a couple of people that have already won 2. So Tony Ross has already won 2, and Badoogie 1234, who I'm not sure who that actually is, has already won 2 as well this week. So and we'll be playing those all week. So that's how that's going to work. But yeah,
and Tony G.
Yeah, Tony. Well, technically Tony G now, because he got his freebie as well. So he got his free roll. Yeah, so you're quite right, Dan. So but if you do want to play the events at Dusk Till Dawn, if there's particular stuff you want to play, it's worth getting in advance and
get in, Kerry. Get in.
Yeah, and do it if you can.
One aspect of the people might want to know about the WCOAP. Have caps been announced for the event?
No, so we're keeping the caps fluid. So we've got 3, 4, 5 events on each of the days. So basically, Dusk Till Dawn have said they've got in their minds some soft caps, but they're going to be very happy to maneuver those if there's higher demand for certain events, so people don't miss out. So it's not going to be a case where we're
registration, obviously.
Bear in mind that there are 36 tables at Dusk Till Dawn. Some of the events we're going to be playing will be 7-handed or 8-handed or 9-handed. So, seriously, capacity-wise at Dust Till Dawn is going to be around 320, 330 players at any one time. So if we've got 3, 4, 5 events on, you can bear that in mind. As Des said earlier on, some of the variants, we might only see 40 or 50 runners, something like that, for them. But they have got the capacity to switch things around, and we're keeping it fluid because we want to try and make sure that people get to play what they want to play.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. All right. It sounds like we are done. Guys, thank you both very much for coming and spending some of your hard-earned time with us on a Sunday evening. Leaderboards goes through the rest of the week, guys. Lee and I will be back next Sunday night, presumably with some form of update even from DTD. I think we might be able to do that.
Well, we've got some options on what we do. We'll have to talk about it, but we've got an option of whether we actually don't do next Sunday and we do a Monday and a Tuesday, and we do the online day ones, and we follow both of those. So we might do that. So we'll have a chat about what we're going to do, and we'll let you guys know for definite. But possibly, if we can get somebody at Dust Till Dawn, we might be able to do a live from Dust Till Dawn on Sunday night for a little bit. If we can find somebody that
Fantastic.
that can do that.
Do you know what that sounds like to me, Lee? Sounds like happy days. Yup.
Seriously.
We're going down. We're going down, folks.
Silver medal.
We are going
down.
It was a
silver medal, Dave. Tell your face it was a silver medal, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Brilliant. Thanks, everyone out there, for sticking with us through the evening. We will see you through the week. Hell of a lot about to happen. Can't wait.